Okay, this morning we're working a species of cichlid from Lake Malawi, Protomelas fenestratus. Common names are tiger Protomelas and tangerine Protomelas, and I'll show you why they're called those two things in a moment. First, a little bit of history here. We lost all of our breeders in the winter storm last February, and in March we set up a new breeding colony with, get glasses here so I can read this, 31 fish. They were all little fish. I was pretty sure 2 were males, and I thought maybe 29 were females. I'm going to show you how wrong I was in a minute. But I'll go ahead and discuss that now. When we harvested those fish, only 11 of them were females. All the others were males. So I think I was right about the 2 males, but I was definitely off on the females. But they were little fish, and that happens. We harvested out of this breeding colony just the 11 females, 288 small fish. There were a lot of fry that were too small to count, and we just put back in the breeding colony. Let me show you this. This is a page printed out of our database. We use Access, Microsoft Access database. It's a relational database. And when we get ready to do some fish, we select the name of the fish, and then it prints up the bats that they're in. We had them in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 vats, a 300-gallon breeder vat and 5 55s. And that's pretty, when we're close to full production, that's what we have with the fish each breeding cycle. We had, last time we just had 44 1-2s that had survived the winter storm, 56 2-3s, 97 what we call BRUs. Those are fish that aren't quite big enough to be sexable, but they're bigger than 3 inches. And that's usually where we pull breeders from. We then, later on, we separated out 36 females out of that. We only had 8 males. Okay, today we ended up with, looks like somewhere around 60 males, 56 females, 72 BRUs. And those are fish that all grew up from those smaller fish last cycle. And then, like I said, we have 288 small fish. That's looks like about 160 2-3s, and the rest of them are 1-2s. And we'll start selling out of those. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I've separated out, let's see, looks like about 9 males that I want to look at again. I'll tell you what, let's first, in the aquarium, I have a young female. This is fairly typical of the females, although we get some that aren't striped like that. I like the striped ones. She's going to go in the breeding colony. She's about a 5 or 6 month old, maybe 7 month old fish. Female, so probably 7 months. Okay, let's go through these males. And I want to discuss some things here. Take a look at this guy. You can see why they're called a tiger, or possibly a tangerine Protomelas. These get to be big fish. This is not a very old male. That was one of our breeders. Here's another one. This is a fish that isn't quite as striped, and it doesn't have quite as much tangerine. I'm not going to use him as a breeder. This is fish that's both striped and tangerine, and was one of the breeders. This guy's not striped, but is tangerine, but I'm not going to keep him as a breeder. Same thing with that guy. Now, that's a nice color youngster, but he doesn't have any striping. Nice color, and he's going to be striped, so I'm going to put him in there. Nice color, but not enough striping. He might develop later. And the same thing with this guy. Okay, so let's talk about this a minute. We got this fish years ago. We started raising it, and we ended up with the variation that I just showed you. Males with good tangerine but no striping, males that weren't that good either way, and then these nice deeply striped fish justifying the name tiger but also still having tangerine. That male, he's not quite as striped as I'd like, but you watch, see his striping is deepening. That's his stripe pattern. And this is a youngster that I think is going to be good. I like his shape and his fins. So I'm going to keep those three as breeders. But what do you do when, like I said, little male, I like him. He's a pretty fish. But by selecting him, I'm shifting the gene frequency in the population, especially when you're picking males, because I'm going to have 3 males and, let's see, looks like 40 females in the breeding colony. I have the original 11 females, and I'm adding 29 young females. So I'm shifting the gene frequency toward fish with bold striping and with tangerine color, away from an attractive fish like this that doesn't have the bold striping. I don't really know what this fish looks like in the wild. I mean, I've seen photos and you get this full range of stuff. But my selection is going to shove this population towards males with heavy striping and justifying the name tiger, and yellow side justifying the name tangerine, and away from the males that don't have that. Somebody with a different idea of beauty, or willing to ignore the common name tiger, might select these males and shift the population a different way. So every breeder is changing the gene frequencies by his or her selection of breeders. Another factor is just the normal drift. Let's say that somebody bought one of these males and 6 females from us, set up a breeding colony. They've automatically reduced the amount of variation we have, which is dramatically reduced from the variation that's in the wild population. Why is that? Because when collectors go out, they don't collect every fish in the population. They collect what they can, and that's going to be a subset of the genes in that population. In fact, they may be selecting for fish that aren't very adept at getting away from nets. Once the fish are in captivity, ours have had generations of adapting to our conditions. Our water temperature, our oxygen levels, our hardness. We've got very hard water, 285 parts per million calcium carbonate alone, plus some other metallic salts. Our summertime temperatures are hot. Water temperatures are around 86 Fahrenheit right now. In the afternoon, it'll go a couple degrees. It'll drop a couple below that, a couple degrees by tomorrow morning. By the way, this is September in Texas is usually starting to cool off, but our August was much cooler than normal. Our September is shaping up to be what August used to be. We're going to hit 100 degrees this week, and normally those are August temperatures. Today, I think it's supposed to be, what, 97? Yesterday was 98 or 99. So these fish have generation after generation adapted to our conditions. One of those conditions is we feed Aquamax, Purina Aquamax foods. So the fish that thrive on that diet are the ones that leave more offspring, and so you have adaptation to that food. So many different things impact what fish thrive and do well. And since we raise a lot of fish, there's a lot of chance for selection for fish that are adapted to our conditions. If you have a pair of fish and you're just keeping a pair each generation, there's you don't have as much variation to deal with, genetic variation to deal with, and therefore selection pressure isn't as strong. Okay, so I've got 3 breeder males that I'm trying to keep the tiger name. I'm considering in the future maybe splitting this into 2 populations and going with the non-striped males, because let's take a look at, what we're going to do is put a couple of these in the aquarium with that female to take a closer look at them. That's one of our breeder males. And here's one that I rejected. And keep in mind, I didn't reject him because he's a bad fish, but take a look at the striping. Now this guy is darkening up. That's his stripe pattern. Normally it would be that pronounced. But you see, even scared, that fish isn't getting much striping. So this justifies the name tiger. This one doesn't. That one's probably, I like that fish, but I'm not going to use him breeding. Now this guy is definitely darkening up. He's prettier than that when he's not frightened. And you can see his underlying color. Okay, I'm going to put him over here. I'm going to take the female out because she's going to go with these males. By the way, these fish get, this is a good sized fish. That's a 1-inch grid on the back, so you can see he's a nice sized fish, but they get bigger than that. This is a big species. Okay, good fish keeping.